Book of Heaven, Volume 4. 3rd to the 24th of February 1902. Page 109 to 116. February 3, 1902. Luisa offers her life so that the law of divorce may not be confirmed. As I was in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself with my adorable baby Jesus in my arms. First he poured a little bit of what embittered him, and then he made the act of wanting to go. And I, clasping him in my arms, said to him, "My pretty little one, life of my life, what are you doing? You want to go? And what shall I do? Don't you see that when I am without you it is a continuous dying for me? Besides, your heart, which is goodness itself, will not have the courage to do it, and I will never let you depart." And I clasped him tightly, as if my arms had become chains. Unable to free himself, he remained with me, taciturn, and I, seeing the evils of society rage more, said to him, "My sweet good, tell me, what will happen with this divorce that they talk about? Will they come to make this evil law or not?" And he told me, "My daughter, the interior of man contains a gangrenous tumor, filled with rot, as if it had reached the point of suppuration, and unable to contain it within himself any longer, he wants to cut this tumor, but not to be cured, rather, to let part of this rot out so as to contaminate and infect the whole society. But the divine Son, almost swimming in the midst of society, cries out continuously, saying, 'Oh, man, don't you remember from what fount of purity you came? With what aura of light I called you back to your path? How can this be? You have not only contaminated yourself, but you want to reach the point of acting against your nature, almost wanting to give another form to the nature I gave you, and to the way established by me?' Then he said many other things, which I am unable to say, and he spoke with such bitterness, that unable to endure seeing him in that way, I said, 'Lord, let us withdraw. Don't you see how men embitter you and almost give you no peace?' So we withdrew inside my bed, and wanting to cheer my good Jesus, I said to him, 'Since you would be so afflicted if men should do this, I offer you my life to suffer any pain in order to obtain that they do not come to this. And so that my offering may not be rejected in any way, I unite it to your sacrifice in order to obtain the deed of grace with certainty.' While I was saying this, it seemed that the Lord was using my offering to present it to divine justice. He disappeared, and I found myself inside myself. It seems that, at any cost, men want to confirm at least a few articles of this law, since they are unable to confirm it completely as they want and please. February 8, 1902. Meanings of the Passion of Jesus. This morning, on coming, my adorable Jesus shared with me part of his passion. Now, while I was in suffering, in order to cheer me, the Lord told me, "My daughter, the first meaning of the Passion contains glory, praise, honor, thanksgiving, reparation for the divinity. The second is the salvation of souls and all the graces which are needed to obtain this purpose. So, if one participates in the pains of my passion, her life contains these very meanings within itself. Not only this, but she takes the same form as my humanity, and since my humanity is united with the divinity, the soul who participates in my pains is also in contact with the divinity and can obtain whatever she wants. Even more, her pains are like keys to open the divine treasures. This, for as long as she lives down here, and then a distinct glory is also reserved for her above the heavens, which is given to her by my humanity and divinity, in such a way as to resemble my very light and glory, as well as a more special glory for the whole celestial court, which will be given to it through this soul by means of that which I have communicated to her. In fact, the more the souls have become like me in the pains, the more light and glory will come out from within the divinity. And here is how the whole celestial court participates in this glory. May the Lord be always blessed, and may everything be for his glory and honor. February 9, 1902. Jesus places himself at the soul's disposal. Luisa asks for the miracle of not allowing divorce to be confirmed. This morning, on coming, my most sweet Jesus shared his pains with me in abundance, so much so, that I felt as if I were about to die. Now, while I was feeling myself in this state, blessed Jesus, moved and touched in seeing me suffer, placed himself in my interior, and folding his arms, said to me, "My daughter, just as you have been at my disposal in suffering, so do I place myself at your disposal to repay you. Tell me, what do you want me to do? I am ready to do what you want." And I, remembering how grieved he would be if men should confirm the law of divorce, as well as the evils that would come upon society, said to him, "My sweet good, since you deign to place yourself at my disposal, I want you to operate a prodigy with your omnipotence, that the will of creatures be chained so that they may not be able to confirm this law." The Lord seemed to accept my proposal, telling me, "Almost all the victims who have been on earth and who are now in heaven, have some most refulgent stars on their crowns, which allow them to be distinguished well for the place they occupy. These stars are nothing other than some great glory which they have procured for God, as well as through them, a great good for humanity. You want me to operate a prodigy so that this divorce may not be confirmed, otherwise this may not happen. Well then, for love of you, I will make this prodigy, and this will be the most refulgent star that will shine on your crown. That is, having prevented my justice, through your sufferings, and after the so many wicked deeds they commit, from also permitting this evil in these sad times, which they themselves have wanted. So, greater glory can be given to God, and greater good to men." February 17, 1902. Jesus explains what death is. This morning, after much waiting, finally I found my most sweet Jesus, and lamenting to him, I said, "My beloved good, how can you make me wait so long? Do you perhaps not know that without you I cannot live, and my soul experiences a continuous dying?" And he, "My beloved, every time you look for me, you dispose yourself to dying, because, in truth, what is death if not stable and permanent union with me? Such was my life, a continuous dying for love of you, and this continuous death was the preparation for the great sacrifice of dying on the cross for you. Know that one who lives in my humanity and nourishes himself from the works of my humanity, forms of himself a great tree, filled with abundant flowers and fruits which form the nourishment of God and of the soul. For one who lives outside of my humanity, then, his works are odious to God and unfruitful for himself. After this, the Lord poured abundantly into me, mixed, both bitternesses and sweetnesses. Then we went round a little in the midst of people, but I could not remove my gaze from the face of my beloved Jesus. On seeing this, he told me, "My daughter, one who lets himself be enticed by the works of his Creator, leaves the works of creatures suspended." He disappeared, and I found myself inside myself. February 19, 1902. The soul is like a canvas which receives the portrait of the divine image. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, sleeping, spreading many rays of golden light from himself. I was content to see him, but also discontent for not being able to hear the sweetness and gentleness of his creative voice. Then, after much waiting, he returned to let himself be seen, and seeing my discontent, he told me, "My daughter, in my public ministry the use of my voice is necessary so as to make myself understood, but in my private ministry my presence alone is enough for everything. In fact, seeing me and understanding the harmony of my virtues in order to copy them within oneself is all the same. So, the attention of the soul must be on seeing me and on conforming to the interior operations of the Word in everything. Because when I draw the soul to myself, it can be said that at least for the time in which I keep her in my presence, she lives divine life. My light is like the brush with which to paint. My virtues provide the different colors, and the soul is like a canvas, receiving the portrait of the divine image within herself. It happens as to those high bridges. The higher they are, the deeper beneath them does a pouring rain fall. In the same way, before my presence, the soul puts herself in the place befitting to her, that is, at the bottom, in her nothingness, so much so, as to feel herself being destroyed. And the divinity pours grace in torrents upon her, and reaches the point of submerging her within itself. Therefore, she must be content with everything, content if I speak, content if I do not speak. While he was saying this, I felt myself as though being submerged in God, and then I found myself inside myself. February 21, 1902. The speaking of Jesus was simple, so much so, that both the learned and the most ignorant could comprehend it. The preachers of these times mix so many loops and quibbles with it, that the peoples remain starved and bored. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus made himself seen in my interior almost in the act of resting. But while he seemed to be resting, it seemed as though he received an offense which he could not bear, and as though waking up, he told me, "My daughter, have patience. Let me pour this bitterness into you, for it gives me no rest." And while saying this, he poured what embittered him into me, and assumed his sweet aspect so as to be able to rest. Then he continued to remain in my interior, spreading many rays of light, in such a way as to form a net of light that caught all men in it. However, some would receive more of that light, some less. Now, while I was seeing this, our Lord told me, "My beloved, when I keep silent it is a sign that I want rest. That is, your rest in me, and mine in you. When I speak it is a sign that I want active life. That is, your help in the work of the salvation of souls, because since they are my images, whatever is done for them, I consider as though being done for me." As he was saying this, I saw several priests, and Jesus, as though lamenting to them, added, "My speaking was simple, so much so, that both the learned and the most ignorant could comprehend it, as appears clearly in the Holy Gospel. But the preachers of these times mix so many loops and quibbles with it, that the peoples remain starved and bored. It shows that they do not draw it from the fount of my spring." February 24, 1902. The Queen Mother, star of the sea on earth, star of light in heaven. More about the law of divorce. As I was in my usual state, the Queen Mother came and told me, "My daughter, my sorrows, as the prophets say, were a sea of sorrows, and in heaven they have turned into a sea of glory, and each of my sorrows has borne the fruit of as many treasures of grace. And just as on earth they call me, star of the sea, because I guide them to the harbor with certainty. In heaven they call me, star of light, for all the blessed, because they are delighted by this light that my sorrows produced. In the meantime my adorable Jesus came, saying to me, 'My beloved, there is nothing more dear and pleasing to me than an upright heart which loves me and, on seeing me suffer, prays me to let it suffer what I suffer. This binds me so much and has so much power over my heart that, as recompense, I give it all of myself, and I concede to it the greatest graces and whatever it wants. And if I did not do so, since I gave myself as gift, I feel that, for as many things as I do not give to it, so many thefts do I make from it. That is, so many debts do I contract with it.' Afterwards he transported me outside of myself, and Jesus added, 'My daughter, there are certain offenses which surpass by far the very offenses I suffered in my passion. Today I have received several of these, to the point that if I did not pour part of them out, my justice would force me to send fierce scourges upon earth. Therefore, let me pour into you.' After he poured them, I don't know how, hearing him speak about offenses, I said to him, 'Lord, what about this law of divorce that they talk about? Is it certain that they will not confirm it?' And he, 'For now it is certain. As for 5, 10 or 20 years from now, if I suspend your state of victim or call you to heaven, they may be able to do it, but the prodigy of chaining their will and of confusing them I have done for now. If you knew the rage of the demons and of those who wanted this law, who were certain to obtain it, it is so great, that if they could, they would destroy any authority and would make a slaughter everywhere. So, in order to mitigate this rage and to prevent these slaughters in part, do you want to expose yourself to their fury a little bit?' And I, 'Yes, as long as you come with me.' So we went to a place in which there were demons and people who seemed to be furious, enraged, mad. As soon as they saw me, they ran over me like many wolves, and some would beat me, some would tear my flesh. They would have wanted to destroy me, but did not have the power to do it. As for me, however, though I suffered very much, I did not fear them, because I had Jesus with me. After this, I found myself inside myself, as though filled with various pains. May the Lord be always blessed.